The appointment was at 10 o'clock. She arrived at 9:45, because she had been arriving 15 minutes early to every appointment for 61 years and she was not going to change that now. She took the elevator to the 14th floor of the Meridian Tower in Buckhead, Atlanta, and she walked to the reception desk and she told the young woman behind it that she had a 10 o'clock with the senior portfolio team. The young woman looked at her. She was 71 years old. Dark brown skin, silver white natural hair worn close and neat, reading glasses on a beaded chain around her neck, a good coat, wool, navy, the kind that lasts 20 years if you take care of it, and a handbag that was not expensive in any way that announced itself but that had been made well and had been maintained well and had been with her for 14 years. She stood 5'3" and she weighed exactly what she had weighed at 45 and she had the particular posture of a woman who had never once in her life allowed a room to make her feel smaller than she was. Her name was Loretta Mae Simmons. And she owned $31 million in assets, none of which were visible from the reception desk of Meridian Capital Partners on a Tuesday morning in October. "Do you have an appointment?" the young woman said. "I just said I do," Loretta said pleasantly. 10 o'clock. With the senior portfolio team. "My name is Loretta Simmons." The young woman typed something. Looked at her screen. Typed something else. "I'm sorry," she said, "I don't see ya." "Try Simmons Capital Trust," Loretta said. "That's how my attorney registered it." More typing. The young woman's expression changed in the specific way that expressions change when a screen shows something unexpected. "Of course," she said. "Mrs. Simmons. I'll let them know you're here. Can I get you anything while you wait?" "Coffee would be nice," Loretta said. "Black, no sugar." She sat down in one of the chairs by the window and looked out at Atlanta and waited for her coffee, which arrived in 3 minutes, and for the senior portfolio team, which arrived in 7. There were 4 of them. 3 men and 1 woman, all between 35 and 50, all in suits that communicated seriousness without quite achieving it, all wearing the expression of people who had been told something on the way to the lobby that had required them to recalibrate faster than was entirely comfortable. The one in front, the managing director, she would learn, a man named Philip Garrett, 51 years old, sandy hair, the face of someone who had been important for long enough that he had stopped noticing it, extended his hand. "Mrs. Simmons," he said. "Philip Garrett. I apologize for the confusion at reception." "No confusion," Loretta said. She shook his hand. "I have an appointment. I'm here. Shall we go in?" They went in. If this story moves your heart, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and drop in the comments what city you're watching from. This is Black People Stories, and this is Loretta's story. Loretta Mae Simmons had been born in 1953 in a small house in Vine City, Atlanta, the third of 5 children of a man who drove a city bus and a woman who took in laundry and ironing and who had, between the two of them, managed to send all 5 children to college at a time when that was not a simple thing to do and was not made simpler by the color of their skin. Her father, James Simmons, had been a man of very few words and very consistent habits. He woke at 5. He read the newspaper at the kitchen table before anyone else was up. He drove his bus route for 31 years without missing a scheduled shift. He saved money the way other people breathed, automatically, without requiring a reason for it, because the alternative was something he had seen up close and had no interest in experiencing. Money in the bank, he told Loretta when she was 9 years old, sitting beside him at the kitchen table while he read the paper, is distance between you and the thing that wants to hurt you. The more distance, the safer you are. Loretta had understood this at 9 in the way that children understand things that are said plainly and repeatedly by people they trust, which is to say, completely and permanently. She had gone to Spelman College in 1971 on a partial scholarship and had worked the rest, waitressing, tutoring, the particular resourcefulness of someone who needs something and is willing to do what it takes to get it. She had graduated in 1975 with a degree in mathematics and had gone to work at an insurance company in downtown Atlanta as an actuary, which was one of the few quantitative roles available to black women in Atlanta in 1975 if you knew where to look and were willing to look harder than most people. She had worked there for 8 years. In those 8 years she had learned 2 things that would matter for the rest of her life. The first was how risk worked, not theoretically, not as an academic concept, but as a practical reality. How to look at a situation and identify what could go wrong and how likely it was to go wrong and what it would cost if it did. How to price that cost. How to build a structure that absorbed the risk without being destroyed by it. The second thing she learned was that the people she was working for were not, on the whole, better at this than she was. They were simply in positions that she was not in, for reasons that had nothing to do with ability. She had filed this observation carefully and gone home and thought about what to do with it. What she did with it was start a business. In 1983, Loretta Simmons left the insurance company and opened a financial planning practice on Auburn Avenue in Atlanta, 2 rooms above a barbershop, a desk she had bought secondhand, a phone, and the particular combination of skills and knowledge and patience that she had spent 8 years acquiring. Her first clients were people like her parents, working people, black families in Atlanta who had money to manage and no one to help them manage it, who were being ignored by the financial services industry because their accounts were too small to be interesting and their zip codes were the wrong zip codes. She charged them fees that were fair and she did work that was excellent and she did not, at any point in the 38 years that followed, forget who she was working for and why. The practice grew slowly. Not the way companies grow in stories, not in leaps, not dramatically. It grew the way things grow when they are built on trust, which is to say, one person at a time, by referral, by the particular mechanism of someone telling someone else that they had found a person who was honest and competent and who would not treat them like their money didn't matter because it wasn't enough money. She had married in 1979, a man named Thomas Simmons, no relation, a high school history teacher who had died of a heart attack in 2001 at the age of 54, which was the worst thing that had happened to Loretta in her life and the thing that had, paradoxically, accelerated the growth of the practice. Not because his death had freed her time, she had not needed his death to free her time, she had always worked, but because grief, for Loretta, had the particular effect of clarifying what mattered and what didn't, and what mattered was the work and the people it served. She had no children. She had 4 nieces and 2 nephews and 11 great-nieces and great-nephews and a network of clients that, by 2024, numbered over 300 families and represented assets under management of $31 million. She had built all of it herself. She had built it in Atlanta, on Auburn Avenue, and then on Cascade Road and then in a proper office in Westview that she owned outright, over 38 years, without a single outside investor, without a single year of operating at a loss, without ever once compromising on the standard of work she expected from herself. She was 71 years old. She had come to Meridian Capital Partners in Buckhead on a Tuesday morning in October because she had decided that $31 million in assets deserved better management than she could provide alone, and because she had spent 4 months researching every significant wealth management firm in Atlanta, and because Meridian Capital Partners had, on paper, the best performance record and the most sophisticated platform for the kind of integrated wealth management she was looking for. She had made an appointment. She had arrived 15 minutes early. She had been made to wait while the receptionist figured out whether she was real. She had drunk her coffee and looked at Atlanta through the window and waited, and now she was in the conference room and Philip Garrett was opening his laptop and the senior portfolio team was arranging itself around the table and she was about to find out whether the firm that looked best on paper was going to be worth the paper it was printed on. The meeting began well enough. Philip Garrett presented an overview of Meridian Capital's investment approach, their asset allocation philosophy, their risk management framework, their performance track record over the past 10 years. Loretta listened carefully, asked 2 questions that were more specific than he had expected, and made notes in a small leather notebook she had taken from her handbag. The problem began at the 20-minute mark, when Garrett turned to the question of the client's current portfolio and what they were looking for. "So Mrs. Simmons," he said, with the particular warmth of someone who has decided to be encouraging, "tell me a little about your situation. Are you looking for income generation? Capital preservation? Are you managing this for yourself or for a family trust?" Loretta looked at him. "Both," she said. "The trust holds assets for current management and for distribution to the next generation. I'll want to discuss the tax optimization strategy as part of the broader structure." Garrett nodded. "And in terms of the asset base we'd be working with, are we talking about the proceeds from a home sale? An inheritance?" "We work with clients at a variety of." $31 million, Loretta said. The room did a thing. It was subtle, not dramatic, not a gasp or a visible reaction. But the room did a thing. A slight recalibration. A collective adjustment of posture that was small enough to be almost invisible and large enough to be completely apparent. Philip Garrett's expression went through three things in approximately 2 seconds: surprise, which he controlled, recalculation, which he could not entirely hide, and the particular overcorrection of someone who has just realized they have been underestimating a person and is now trying to compensate by being significantly more attentive than they were being 30 seconds ago. "Of course," he said. His voice had changed. "Not the content, the register." "And the structure of those assets currently?" "Real estate holdings representing approximately 40%, Loretta said. Investment accounts, equities and fixed income, at 35%. The remainder in cash and near-cash instruments." She looked at him. "I'll want to discuss rebalancing the real estate position and the overall tax efficiency of the structure." "Absolutely," Garrett said. "Absolutely. Let me bring in our real estate specialist." "I've reviewed your real estate team's track record," Loretta said. "The performance over the past 5 years has been adequate. I'd also like to discuss your alternatives allocation and whether your platform supports impact investing with a focus on Black-owned businesses in the Southeast." Garrett looked at her. "That's a somewhat specialized request," he said. "Yes," Loretta said. "It is." The woman on the portfolio team, the only one, a woman named Dana who had been at Meridian for 6 years and who had said almost nothing since the meeting began, looked at Loretta with an expression that was different from the expressions of her colleagues. It was the expression of someone paying attention to something they want to understand. "We have some capacity in that area," Dana said. "It's not our primary focus, but we've done some work with community development financial institutions and—" "I know," Loretta said. "I read the case studies on your website. They were from 2018. She paused. "I'm interested in what you're doing now." Dana almost smiled. "Let me pull the current data." The meeting lasted 2 hours and 40 minutes, which was 90 minutes longer than Philip Garrett had scheduled. At the end of it, Loretta Mae Simmons closed her leather notebook, put it in her handbag, and looked at the 4 people across the table. "I'll be direct," she said. "Your investment performance is strong. Your tax optimization capabilities are adequate but not exceptional. Your impact investing infrastructure needs significant development." She paused. "I'm interested in a relationship. But I want to discuss terms that reflect the value of the assets I'm bringing to the platform, and I want Dana involved in the management of the account." She looked at Dana. Dana gave a small nod. "I'd also like to discuss," Loretta continued, "whether Meridian Capital has considered expanding its impact investing platform more formally. Because $31 million is what I'm bringing today. But I have relationships with 47 other financial practitioners in Atlanta who serve a combined client base of several hundred million in assets. And those practitioners are looking for a platform that takes this market seriously." She let that land for a moment. I'm not asking you to build it for free. I'm asking whether you're interested in building it at all. Philip Garrett looked at her. He had been in finance for 26 years. He had sat across this table from hundreds of clients. He had not, in 26 years, had a meeting that had required him to revise his assumptions this completely and this quickly. We're interested, he said. Good, Loretta said. Then let's schedule a follow-up. She stood up. She put on her good coat. She picked up her handbag. Philip Garrett stood up too, they all did, which was not something they always did when a client left the room and was something that Loretta noticed. Mrs. Simmons, Garrett said, I want to apologize for the delay at reception. That shouldn't have happened. Loretta looked at him. No, she said. It shouldn't have. She paused. I'll see you Thursday. She walked out. If you're loving this story, subscribe to Black People Stories and comment what city you're watching from. Let's see how far Loretta's story has traveled. Dana Okafor had been at Meridian Capital for 6 years. She was 38 years old, Nigerian American, the daughter of 2 doctors who had come to Atlanta from Lagos in 1981 and who had raised her with the particular combination of high expectation and genuine warmth that produces people who are both capable and decent. She had an MBA from Emory and a decade of experience in wealth management and a quiet frustration that had been building for 6 years about the gap between the client's Meridian served and the client's Meridian could serve if it chose to. She had raised the impact investing question with Philip Garrett twice. The first time he had said it was an interesting idea. The second time he had said the timing wasn't right. She had not raised it a third time because she had learned, in 6 years, which conversations were worth having twice and which ones required a different approach. She had been paying very close attention in the conference room. After Loretta left, she went back to her office, closed the door, and sent an email. The email was to Loretta's attorney. She had gotten the contact from the Simmons Capital Trust registration, which she had pulled up during the meeting, and it said, I would like to speak with Mrs. Simmons directly, at her convenience, about the impact investing platform question. I have been working on a proposal for this internally for 2 years. I believe there is a real opportunity here and I believe Mrs. Simmons is the right partner to make it happen. She sent it and went back to work and tried not to think about whether it would receive a response. It received a response in 4 hours. The response was from Loretta Simmons directly, not from her attorney, and it said, Thursday at noon. I'll come to you. Bring the proposal. Dana brought the proposal. The proposal Dana had been working on for 2 years was, Loretta determined over a 90-minute lunch on Thursday, excellent in its analysis and modest in its ambition, the modesty of someone who has been told twice that the timing isn't right and has unconsciously reduced the scale of what she was proposing to something that might be acceptable rather than something that was actually right. This is too small, Loretta said, pointing to the section on platform investment. Dana looked at her. The internal appetite for capital allocation. I'm not talking about internal appetite, Loretta said. I'm talking about what the market needs. She turned to page 4 of the proposal, the market analysis, which was the strongest section and the one that had been, Loretta suspected, written before Dana started worrying about what was acceptable. This is accurate. This is what the gap looks like. The platform you've proposed doesn't address the gap you've described. Dana was quiet for a moment. What would address it, she said. Loretta told her. It took 23 minutes to tell her. She had been thinking about it for 38 years, not this specific proposal, but the underlying problem, the gap between what Black wealth builders needed from the financial services industry and what the financial services industry had ever been willing to provide. She had been thinking about it since 1983 on Auburn Avenue, and she had been building the relationships and the track record and the $31 million in assets that would make the conversation possible, and now the conversation was possible and she was having it. Dana listened to all 23 minutes without interrupting. When Loretta finished, Dana looked at her notes. "If I took this to Garrett," she said carefully, "he would say the capital requirements are." "I'm not asking you to take it to Garrett," Loretta said. "I'm asking you whether you believe in it." Dana looked up. "Yes," she said. "I believe in it." "Then we'll figure out the rest," Loretta said. She picked up her coffee cup. "I've been figuring out the rest for 38 years. It gets easier once you stop waiting for permission." The proposal that went to the Meridian Capital Partners board 6 weeks later was not the 2-year-old proposal that Dana had brought to lunch. It was a new document, 61 pages, built jointly by Dana and Loretta over 6 weeks of work that happened in the early mornings and late evenings and on 2 full Saturdays in Loretta's office in Westview. It proposed the establishment of a dedicated impact investing platform within Meridian Capital, focused on wealth management for Black families and investment in Black-owned businesses in the Southeast. It included a capital commitment from Simmons Capital Trust, a meaningful one, the kind that said "this is serious," and a letter of intent from 11 other financial practitioners in Loretta's network who had agreed, after a dinner she had organized at a restaurant in Decatur, to consider moving their client assets to Meridian if the platform was built correctly. The 11 letters of intent represented, in aggregate, assets under management of approximately $240 million. Philip Garrett read the proposal over a weekend. He called Dana on Monday morning. "Is she serious?" he said. "She arrived 15 minutes early to a meeting where we made her wait," Dana said. "She's serious about everything." The board approved the proposal on a Thursday. Dana was named head of the new platform. Loretta Mae Simmons became a strategic advisor to Meridian Capital Partners, a formal role, compensated, with a seat at the table where the decisions about the platform's direction were made. And the $31 million in assets that she had built over 38 years on Auburn Avenue and Cascade Road and in a proper office in Westview that she owned outright became the foundation of something that was, within 2 years, managing over $300 million in assets and had become the thing she had been working towards since 1983, a platform that took seriously the market it served, built by and for the people who had always deserved it. Philip Garrett came to see Loretta in her Westview office 3 months after the board approval. He had called ahead. He had been punctual. He sat across from her desk, a desk that had been in 3 offices over 38 years and that showed its age in the particular way of things that have been used for real work, and he looked at the room. The framed photographs of clients and their families. The bookshelves with 40 years of financial texts and personal finance guides for working families. The window that looked out toward Cascade Road. "I've been in this business for 26 years, he said. "And I want to be honest with you about something." "Please," Loretta said. "When you walked into that reception area on Tuesday morning, I wasn't there, I didn't see it, but when my assistant described it to me, I knew what had happened. I knew because I know how that floor works. I know what assumptions get made." He paused. "I should have addressed that directly in the meeting. I addressed it as an apology for a delay. That was insufficient." Loretta looked at him. "Yes," she said. "It was. The platform Dana has built, the platform you helped her build, is going to be the most important thing this firm has done in 10 years. He paused. "I want you to know that I understand why that's true. Not just the assets it manages, but what it means that we were not doing it before you walked in." Loretta was quiet for a moment. She looked at the window. At Cascade Road outside. At the Atlanta she had been building in, and building for 38 years. "My father drove a bus for 31 years, she said. "He told me when I was 9 years old that money in the bank is distance between you and the thing that wants to hurt you." She turned back to Garrett. "What I've been building for 38 years is distance. For 300 families in Atlanta who needed it and couldn't find it anywhere else." She paused. "The platform is more distance. For more families. That's all it is. Garrett nodded. That's enough, he said. Yes, Loretta said. It is. Dana Okafor called Loretta on a Tuesday morning, 14 months after the board approval, to tell her that the platform had passed $300 million in assets under management. Loretta was at her desk in Westview. She was reviewing a client file, one of her original clients, a woman named Dorothy who had first come to her office on Auburn Avenue in 1986 and whose granddaughter was now also a client and whose great-granddaughter had just started college. She listened to Dana's news. She said, "Good. What's next?" Dana laughed. "You're not going to celebrate?" "I'll celebrate when it's $500 million, Loretta said. "What's next?" What was next was a partnership with two CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions, in Birmingham and Charlotte that would extend the platform's reach beyond Atlanta. What was next was a mentorship program for Black financial advisors who were building practices like Loretta's had been, in the cities and neighborhoods where the clients were and the capital had never been. What was next was 38 years of knowledge and relationships and the particular understanding that comes from doing work that matters for people who need it, being made available in a structure that could survive beyond any single person. Loretta was 71 years old. She had a great deal of work to do. She had always had a great deal of work to do. The difference now was that the work had a larger structure to flow through, more advisors, more capital, more families, more distance between the people she served and the thing that wanted to hurt them. Her father would have understood it immediately. He would have sat down at her desk, in the same chair Philip Garrett had sat in, and he would have looked at the numbers, the $300 million, the 11 partners, the CDFIs in Birmingham and Charlotte, and he would have nodded the way he nodded at the kitchen table when the newspaper said something that confirmed what he already believed. And then he would have asked, "What's next?" Because that was the question. It was always the question. Not how far have you come? How far can you go? Loretta put down the phone. She went back to Dorothy's client file. She had work to do. There is something that happens to wealth when it is built slowly, over decades, by someone who understands both the mathematics of money and the human cost of not having it. It becomes something different from wealth that arrives quickly or is inherited or is built by people who have never had to think carefully about what its absence produces. It becomes a specific kind of knowledge, not just of numbers and markets and tax structures, but of what money actually does in a life. What it protects. What it enables. What its absence forecloses. Loretta Mae Simmons had been building that knowledge since she was 9 years old at a kitchen table in Vine City, watching her father read a newspaper before anyone else in the house was awake. She had built it through 38 years of sitting across desks from people who had been told, in one form or another, that their money wasn't enough to matter, and showing them that it was, that it could be made to work, that the distance her father had talked about was something they could build if someone showed them how. She had built it in the specific and unglamorous way that real things are built, which is to say, one client at a time, one referral at a time, 1 year of careful work producing the foundation for the next year of careful work, until the foundation was deep enough and wide enough to support something larger than she could have built alone. The $31 million in assets under management at Simmons Capital Trust was not the point. The point was what those assets represented: 300 families in Atlanta who had been building distance, slowly and carefully, in the years since they had sat across from Loretta's desk and been shown that it was possible. The platform at Meridian Capital was not the point either. The point was what the platform would produce: more families, in more cities, building more distance, with more advisors who understood the work because they were the work. Loretta had learned, over 38 years, to hold the difference between the thing and what the thing was for. The practice was not the point. The clients were the point. The platform was not the point. The families were the point. This was not a philosophical distinction. It was a practical one. It determined every decision she made, about pricing, about the clients she took on, about the standards she held herself to, about what she was willing to accept from the firms and the systems she worked within. It was why, when Philip Garrett made the not-quite apology in the conference room on the day of the meeting, she had said what she said and then moved on. Not because the apology didn't matter. Because what mattered more was what came after it. And what came after it was the platform and the $300 million and the CDFIs in Birmingham and Charlotte and the mentorship program for Black advisors who were building what she had built, and that was worth more than any apology. Her father had taught her that too, though not in those words. He had taught it by example, by the way he went to work every day on a route that was sometimes hostile and came home every evening and balanced the checkbook and saved the money and built the distance. Not because the hostility didn't matter. Because building the distance mattered more. The mentorship program launched in the spring. Loretta had been involved in its design from the beginning, not as a figurehead, not as a name on a letterhead, but as someone who sat in the room where the curriculum was built and asked the questions that produced the right answers and occasionally threw out entire sections because they were describing the world that existed rather than the world the advisors being mentored would need to navigate. There were 12 advisors in the first cohort. All Black, all building practices in cities in the Southeast, Atlanta, Birmingham, Charlotte, Nashville, New Orleans. All at different stages, some just starting, some 5 years in, some 10. All of them had been identified through Loretta's network, which meant all of them had already been vetted in the most reliable way available, which is by people who know the work and know what it requires. The first session was held in a conference room at Meridian Capital, which was, Loretta had decided, the right place to hold it. Not a neutral venue. Not somewhere comfortable and removed. The room where the decisions were made. The room where the money moved. The room that had been, for most of the history of this industry, a room that did not expect people who looked like the 12 advisors sitting in it. She opened the session herself. She stood at the front of the room and looked at 12 people who were building what she had built, slowly, carefully, one client at a time, in the cities and neighborhoods where the clients were and the capital had not been, and she said, "I'm going to tell you something my father told me when I was 9 years old. And then I'm going to tell you what I learned in 38 years of finding out whether he was right." She told them what her father had said. Money in the bank is distance between you and the thing that wants to hurt you. Then she told them what 38 years had taught her about that sentence. She told them that the distance was real and that it worked. She told them that building it was slow and that the slowness was not a flaw but a feature, that the distance built slowly was the distance that lasted. She told them that the clients they served were not charity cases or special projects or impact investments. They were people who had been systematically excluded from access to professional financial guidance for reasons that had nothing to do with the quality of their assets or the validity of their financial goals, and who deserved exactly the same quality of work that any other client deserved. She told them that they would encounter, in their careers, rooms that did not expect them. That they would arrive at reception desks where their appointments would not be found immediately. That they would sit across from managing directors who would revise their assumptions mid-meeting when the numbers became visible. That they would have proposals ignored and meetings rescheduled and ideas taken seriously only after someone else said them. She told them to document everything. To arrive 15 minutes early. To know the numbers better than anyone else in the room. To build the platform on truth rather than on what they thought would be acceptable. She told them that it was possible. That she was the proof of it, and they were the proof of it, and the $300 million under management on the platform 2 floors above them was the proof of it. She told them that the work was worth it. Not because it would be easy or fast or always fair. But because the families they served were worth it, and the distance they were building was real, and real things lasted. Then she sat down and opened the floor to questions. There were 47 of them. She answered every one. Dorothy, Loretta's client since 1986, came to see her in November. She was 81 years old. Dark brown skin, white hair worn natural and close, the careful movement of someone who has lived long enough to know that the body requires negotiation. She sat across from Loretta's desk in the same chair she had sat in the first time, in 1986, in a different office on Auburn Avenue, when she had come in with a coffee can of savings and the specific courage of someone who has decided to do something they have never done before and is frightened and doing it anyway. She had been frightened then. She was not frightened now. She was there because her great-granddaughter, Imani, 19, first year at Spelman, the fourth generation of her family to be a client of Loretta's, had asked to be included in the annual portfolio review. Dorothy had said yes, and Imani had come, and the three of them sat in Loretta's office in Westview and talked about money. Not in the abstract. Specifically, the portfolio. The trust structure. The plan for what happened next. Imani asked good questions. Sharp ones, the questions of someone who had grown up hearing her grandmother talk about money the way the subject deserved to be talked about, which is to say, plainly and seriously and without pretending it was something other than what it was. At the end of the meeting, Imani looked at Loretta. "How did you start?" she asked. "Like, from the very beginning. How did you know what to do?" Loretta thought about a kitchen table in Vine City in 1962. About a man reading a newspaper before anyone else was awake. About a coffee can of savings coming through a door on Auburn Avenue in 1986. About a reception desk in Buckhead and a cup of coffee that arrived in 3 minutes and a room that recalibrated when the numbers became visible. "I listened," she said. "To the people who knew things I didn't know. And then I worked. And then I kept working." She paused. "And I arrived 15 minutes early to everything." Imani wrote this down. Dorothy watched her great-granddaughter write it down and did not say anything. But she had an expression, the expression of someone watching a line continue that they had drawn a long time ago, in a different office, with a coffee can of savings and the specific courage of someone who had decided to do something they had never done before. The line continued. That was the whole point. That had always been the whole point. And next week, we will tell another story, about a son who spent 20 years trying to prove himself to a father who had already decided he was enough. Don't miss it. This has been Black People Stories. Subscribe, share, and remember, the person they made wait in the lobby is often the person who owns the building. Walk in anyway. 15 minutes early. Every time.